I got my coworkers to ban themselves from watching the World Cup. So I worked at this huge office building with like 10 different departments. Most departments had something called flexi time, which basically means you can pick your hours as long as you're there during the busy part of the day. The core hours were 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Everyone had to be there during that time, but you could start earlier or later as long as someone was covering the phones from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I lived like an hour away from the office, so traffic was absolutely brutal during rush hour. I asked my old manager if I could work 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day to avoid the worst of it. He said sure, no problem. I'd been doing this for 4 years and everyone was cool with it. Then I switched departments. My new coworkers immediately had a problem with me leaving at 4 p.m. even though someone was always there until 6 p.m. covering the phones, even though it didn't affect their work at all. They started complaining to our department manager every single day. Sarah would be like, it's not fair that she gets to leave early when we all have to stay until 5. And Mike would chime in with, if we all have to stay, she should stay too. Our manager tried everything. He offered to let them leave early too. He suggested a rotation where different people could leave at 4 p.m. each day. He basically bent over backwards trying to make everyone happy. But they didn't want solutions. They wanted me to suffer. Finally, my manager called me into his office looking exhausted. He goes, I've tried everything, but they won't back down. They want you to work the same hours as everyone else or they're going to keep complaining. I asked if I could transfer to another department, but then he mentioned something that made me smile. The office was relocating in a few months to a building that was way closer to my house, so I told him to give me 2 weeks and I'd handle it. Now here's what made this whole situation perfect. The World Cup was happening at the same time. All the games were being played overseas, so because of the time difference, a bunch of the matches were at like 9 a.m. UK time. My coworkers were obsessed. They'd been planning for months to watch the morning games and still make it to work by 10 a.m. when core hours started. The office even had this huge screen in the conference room they were going to use. So we have this team meeting about working hours. I let my coworkers get all worked up, complaining about how unfair it was that I left at 4 p.m. I even threw in a few comments to make them angrier. Then I put my hands up and said, you know what? You're absolutely right. We should all work the same hours. They're all nodding enthusiastically. I go, so we should all work 9 to 5, just like you want. No more flexi time for anyone. We all start and end at the exact same time. More nodding. They're loving this. Starting tomorrow. Suddenly the room goes dead quiet. Our manager jumps in and says, that's a brilliant solution. We'll take the whole department off flexi time immediately so everyone works identical hours. You could literally see the panic spreading across their faces as they realized what they'd just agreed to. Sarah tried to backtrack. She goes, well, maybe we could keep flexi time for starting hours. But I cut her off. I said, oh no, you guys made it very clear that we all need to work the exact same hours. No exceptions. Then I dropped the real bomb. I said, this also means I won't be the only one covering phones from 8 to 9 a.m. anymore. You guys have been leaving me alone to handle all those calls every morning while you watched World Cup highlights. Mike's face went white. And since I can't leave early anymore, I'll stop working through my lunch breaks. I used to cover phones during lunch so you guys could watch the games on the big screen. But now I'll take my full hour off like everyone else, which meant they could only watch 30 minutes of each World Cup game instead of the full 90 minutes. Our manager nodded and said, perfect. Starting tomorrow, everyone works 9 to 5 with standard lunch breaks. No exceptions. The best part? 2 days later, they announced the office relocation. The new building was a 10-minute walk from my apartment instead of an hour drive. So while my coworkers lost their World Cup viewing and had to start work an hour earlier, I got to walk to work every day. Sometimes the best revenge is just giving people exactly what they ask for.